Hello, everybody in YouTube land. It is your buddy Choppadong coming at you with another episode of Chop Talk brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things DFS related. Head down to the comments section, click the link DFSArmy.com to become a VIP, receive the coaching that teaches you how to use the tools that you pick up in the content that we produce. Become a better fantasy player today. Use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, trigger 10% discount and get moving today. Week 2 NFL. What we're going to do today is we're going to dive into the NFL slate. We're going to talk about the games as quickly as we possibly can, just skim the tops off. Then we're going to dive into the research station, and I'm going to show you box checkers, which is the hyper simple way by position to show you the best of the best plays. We may talk a little GPP pivot while we're there, but we're going to be focused on finding the core plays of the week. Ownership be damned. So let's jump in after I walk through just a little bit of the website to show you the content that we have and where you can find the wishbone on the NFL page of DFSArmy.com. When you jump into the wishbone, you're also going to find at the bottom some of the links to this other current article stuff. So you can always count on the wishbone, bookmark it, pin it, find it on Twitter at Choppadong, whatever you need to do. Keep consulting that page because at the bottom you're going to have a link to the most current content on the site NFL related. So, all right, that said, let's dive in to the slate and let's talk a little bit about the slate. I'll go through every little game that I possibly can and throw the names out off the top of my head. What we're going to be looking for in the box checkers portion, I'm going to have you write some requirements down and then show you how the research station will pull all of those forward for you. And then we'll wrap up the video and jump out of here for this week. What we're looking at in the Thursday game, Baltimore close spread, 44-point total at Cincinnati. You might be looking for some form of a shootout. What you're looking for on the big slates a lot of times is a Thursday fade because if this game does fall flat, you probably didn't need it. Of course, if it went crazy, you could probably win without it because you've only got 15 other games to choose from or more. So the Thursday fade makes sense. It's like I tell people in softball, don't hit the ball in the air. Hit the ball on the ground because two good things can happen. One, the guy can kick it. Two, it can find a hole. And then the bonus third is you get under it just a little bit and you hit a screaming line drive somewhere. If you try to hit line drives, then two bad things can happen. You can hit it right at somebody and you can get under it just a little bit and pop it up as a can of corn. Most people don't drop cans of corn. They do kick ground balls. That's the same way with the Thursday fade. Most of the time, the game plays out about right, or it's a dud. So you win 2 out of those 3 options. Very seldom does it blow up so big that you need pieces from it to cash elsewhere on the slate. Now, I would be paying attention to, I don't know about Joe Flacco, I would be paying attention to Alex Collins. Most people will be off of Alex Collins. Why would I pay attention to him? He should get more workload than 8 touches. The guy was in a blowout. They didn't need him. They went down to their second and third backs to preserve a little bit of workload on him in a game they already had in hand. This game should be a little bit more competitive. You should see more Alex Collins. John Brown interests me. Michael Crabtree interests me. I still want to see how their target shares pan out. John Brown is supposedly Flacco's favorite target right now. I would love to see that pan out because the guy will always be cheap. He can get behind a defense. And if he's being used on shorter passes like the 13-yard red zone reception, hey, I'm all in. Over on the Cincinnati side of things, I don't know about the whole Andy Dalton, Joe Mixon, Tyler Eifert, AJ Green. I don't know. On that slate, I don't need it as part of the Thursday game fade anyway. Washington at Indianapolis. Washington is 25.75 as of right now. Implied points to be scored at home. They're favored by 5.5 points. That sets up to be running the ball late and Indy be throwing it late. We know that Indy's defense isn't that great. So we can count on seeing some Adrian Peterson. To the workload that we saw in week 1, I don't know. That kind of came out of nowhere on a lot of us. But if it continues, more power to him. Alex Smith loves to check it down. He'll take a few deep shots, but he loves to check it down. He loves to run a little bit. Alex Smith has a floor against a bad secondary in Indianapolis. When I look at Indianapolis really quickly, they're rated about 32nd against the pass. That's pretty bad. 32nd in DVOA against the pass as of right now. That's pretty bad. So you can count on Alex Smith to be chucking the ball a little bit. That might bring Chris Thompson into play in terms of GPPs if he's not, banged up, nicked up. A lot of these guys get banged up and nicked up that aren't going to be on my core play radar anyway. Alex Smith, radar. Jordan Reed, radar. Jamison Crowder, maybe. Probably not. Anyone on Indianapolis? No. Maybe T.Y. Hilton in tournaments. That's about it. Jack Doyle, no. I don't like committees. Committees suck. They're going to throw to Ebron some games and Doyle other games. I don't care what anybody says. There's no clear-cut favorite there, and they can switch anytime they want. Committees suck. It's a volatile enough position anyway for me to know I'm going in at a coin flip. That just doesn't make sense to me. As far as Carolina at Atlanta, this is a division rivalry type of game. Division rivals know each other very well, like we talk about in baseball. You look for BVP against the pitcher in these scenarios because they play each other quite a bit, and you can find a sample size. Well, game logs in these division rivals matter as well. Yes, I know Carolina's not great. I know they lost Greg Olsen. But what I also know is that Tampa Bay freaking beat New Orleans at home. Division rivals oftentimes get flip-flopped on their head. When you look at Atlanta at home, it looks like if we ran the slate 100 times, most of the time they'd win. There's a 5-point spread. There's a 25-point total on them rounded up. There's only a 19-point total on Carolina rounded down. That tells me that in Atlanta, we should be looking at maybe Matt Ryan. I don't know. Julio Jones, probably not going to get 19 targets, but if they are forcing the ball to him like they should be, then great. That's what you should be doing with the Julio Jones. Devontae Freeman might be injured. Tevin Coleman gets the start. I'll be very interested in him. Otherwise, as a core play, I'm not on either running back. Mohamed Sanu, I like cheaper plays a little bit better. I don't think he's got a great floor. I don't think he has much of a ceiling. So maybe in tournaments, you might say maybe they go away from Julio and they go to Sanu for a game. I'm not sure. That's guesswork to me. When I look over at Carolina, we lost Greg Olsen. You might run the backup. What's it, Jonnu Smith or something like that? No, that's Tennessee. My bad. You might look at Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton as the only plays to me that I would be considering. They're probably more GPP plays being on the road. However, Christian McCaffrey, if he is their true number one receiving option, should factor into an awful lot of garbage time should the game script go according to plan. Now, as a sneaky GPP play, Atlanta defense, they're cheap, 3,400 on FanDuel. Anytime you see under 20, especially under 18, in the opponent's implied total, you should be targeting the other team's defense, especially knowing that Cam Newton can be turnover prone when he tries to put the team on his back. He likes to run. He can score touchdowns. That's great for him. But he can also throw picks, and we like that. Green Bay, Minnesota. That game is feels like it's a division game again, but it feels like kind of a bull butting a bull that isn't really going to go anywhere. Minnesota, we know, has a premium defense. I don't like targeting those. Aaron Rodgers, sorry. Cobb, Devontae Adams, the running back. I don't like any of them. Jimmy Graham, don't like any of them. And the reason why is very, very simple to me. The reason why is because when we're going up against a stud defense against the run and the pass, it just tends to hurt the chances of them hitting their ceiling. Can they still hit their floors? Yes. But a floor without a ceiling, it's not good for cash. It's not good as a core play. Well, it just anytime you don't have a ceiling to test, you're relying on a very good performance just to hit your floor, which actually isn't your floor. It's a good performance that just happened to hit some magical numbers. I look over on the Minnesota side though, and I see names like Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph. All those weapons are kind of in play because Green Bay is not a phenomenal defense in their own right. 27th against the pass in DVOA. Happens to be that Minnesota's third with the pass themselves. Top 3 offense, passing offense going up against the 27th ranked defense. That is good against bad. We like that. Now, I'm not saying Minnesota's going to win the game. I'm not saying that this isn't a division game that's going to flip-flop or anything like that. I'm saying that if I was going to focus anywhere in this game, it'd be in the Minnesota passing side. LA Chargers at Buffalo. You're going to hear West Coast go east. You're going to hear West Coast go east in an early game. And you're going to hear people be afraid of this game. I'm going to tell you, I don't think that's the case. I think the more I think about this, although I can see that happening, and I see a little bit of an increased likelihood of that happening, I don't know that it's going to happen this time. Buffalo was that bad. Buffalo's only supposed to score 18 points in this game. The Chargers, however, are supposed to score 25. They're a 7.5-point favorite. That suggests running late in the game Melvin Gordon. However, I went looking at what is affected when a West Coast team goes east, and most of the time it's the running game. So that gives me a little bit of pause on Melvin Gordon, but not a lot, because if the passing game gets him down there, you know Melvin Gordon's getting the work inside the 5. I kind of like him this week. What I also saw was looking into how Phillip Rivers played when he went east. I didn't exactly look at the home versus away stuff, but I looked at all the East Coast teams over the past 3 years that he played in their game logs, and I found a lot of performances, 20 for 30, 30 for 35 or whatever, with 250 to 325 yards. A lot of them fell right in that zone. 1 to 2 touchdowns, a couple of 3 touchdown performances, right in that zone of a good solid day. Now, did I see any 30 for 35 for 45 and 4 touchdowns, 400 something yards? No, I didn't see any of those slate-breaking games out of Phillip Rivers, but I saw very steady production. I also did not see a lot, if any, 18 for 24, 12 of 20 passing performances for only 210 yards and 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Or I didn't see any of that either. So that tells me the chances of him having a bad performance are not very good either. So if he's not likely to have a bad performance, and he's maybe not going to win the slate in a GPP, but he's got the potential to go 30 for 35 with 325 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that, that's fine. In a game where he is supposed to score a lot, this is a road quarterback I might trust a little bit. Now, I may find others I like better, but he's on the list. And Buffalo, nothing. Sorry, not going to happen. The LA Chargers defense is chalk this week. People are going to get in the habit of attacking the Buffalo offense with the opposing team's defense. This implied run total or implied team total is a major indicator why. Houston and Tennessee, hopefully I'll update this a little bit later. I'm looking for the point total to see exactly where we might go, how much emphasis we might give on this game. I don't see it being some 50-point game prediction, but I'd like to see it over 46. I will say this, in Tennessee, I do like Dion Lewis getting more touches than Derrick Henry. We'll see if that holds this week. I like seeing I don't like seeing Delanie Walker get hurt, but I like seeing his backup, Jonnu Smith, getting targets after Delanie left the game. Delanie's a very cash-safe option in this offense. Jonnu Smith might become that in his replacement. Now, first week out of the gate, you don't really know what's going on, but he got 3 targets after Delanie left. Delanie had 6, so you got 9 for the tight end spot. It wasn't a committee to begin with. There's no reason to think it's going to become a committee now. He's a dirt cheap tight end punt. Safe for cash? Yeah, why not? It's a volatile position. When you get them that cheap, you're banking on an end zone or some targets anyway, and you saw the potential for the targets. So I don't mind it so much. Kansas City at Pittsburgh. This is the shootout game of the week. It's easy to see. It's obvious. Everybody's going to see it. 52-point game total is going to attract people. 28 points for the home team, 23 for the road team. People are going to love it. Bad defense in Kansas City. Horribly ranked. Run, pass, doesn't matter. People are shredding them. You got Pittsburgh at home. Big Ben's home road splits are in play. He plays much better at home. I expect him to have a good day. I expect him to be using Antonio Brown, Juju Schuster. I expect him to also be using James Conner. Because it's against the run, the DVOA in Kansas City is also ranked poorly. You've got yourself James Conner in another smash spot. He's only $7,000 on FanDuel. It doesn't look like he's too expensive to really be questioning still. So lock him in. People are going to be chasing him. His ownership's going to be up. You should be fine in cash games running James Conner. On the flip side, over in Kansas City, I'm probably only interested in Tyreek Hill. I don't know about Kelsey yet. I would like to use him, but they forgot about him in week 1. I would like to use Kareem Hunt. Don't know. Would like to use Pat Mahomes. Don't know. I just don't see, other than GPP flyers, I don't see any of them being worth it. Even though it's a shootout, they're not worth it as your core plays. But a good game stack, even a core game stack, would be Ben, Juju, Tyreek. Ben, Connor, Tyreek. Something like that. Because if you do Ben, Brown, Tyreek, you're going to be in there with all the other people that are game stacking the obvious stuff. You want to get a little bit off the herd, Ben, Juju, Tyreek. Not bad. Okay. Jets, Miami. I had the game marked down as a big old meh. 43-point total, pick'em game, don't know. I do like Quincy Enunwa as a huge GPP punt, cash game punt, $5,000. Got a lot of targets. I'll take those 10 targets for $5,000 any day of the week. That tells me that they're going to be using a lot of him when they get the opportunity. I don't know. They're only supposed to score 3 touchdowns in the game. Maybe he gets one. I'm not big on Crowell. I'm not big on Bilal Powell. Their workloads were a little bit down, or their results were bad if they were getting the workload. Don't see it happening on the Miami side of things. Yeah, we can talk Kenny Stills because everybody said he was cash safe last week. He's not. He only had 5 targets. Sorry, he did damage with them. That's great. That's GPP upside, but he only got 5 targets. It's not a cash option. I don't care what anybody says. As far as Kenyon Drake, maybe. As far as Danny Amendola, all right. Danny got the touches. Danny got like 8 targets or so. Now, again, that's more of a PPR, more of a DraftKings scenario. But if you wanted to target anything out of those games, that might be where I was going. Darnold, not yet. Not worried about it yet. His efficiency wasn't quite there. I want to see some efficiency. Somebody's got to win this game, but it doesn't look like it's going to go super high scoring. I'd rather focus my attention where it's supposed to be high scoring. Philly at Tampa, another interesting type of game. Of course, with Philly, I don't know about Nick Foles. Don't know. I do like Nelson Aguilar. I don't know about Jay Ajayi. I mean, Zach Ertz probably fine. You want to play some of those, it's fine. Aguilar would be my cash safe play out of that. I don't know about Ertz this week. If I looked over on the Tampa Bay side of things, am I going to chase Ryan Fitzpatrick? No, although some people are. Let him. It's fine. If he does it for a few weeks, maybe I get on the train. By then, he'll probably be an $8,000 quarterback, and we'll be talking about how overpriced he is for being Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know about Peyton Barber. Don't know Mike Evans. Maybe Deshaun Watson or Jackson's not maybe supposed to play. That might funnel some targets to Mike Evans, but it's not necessarily going to just shove them off on the third guy in the volume that you're going to want to see to have a cash safe floor. GPP flyers, sure, take them on all of them. Stack Fitzy and Evans and whoever you want to do. But largely for cash games, it's Aguilar and, don't know on the Tampa Bay side. It's about it. Looking at New Orleans and Cleveland, another big game. Cleveland, we saw, was vulnerable with their defense. I know they're supposed to be better; they are better, but they were still vulnerable. I look over at New Orleans, and they scored 40 points even in the loss. They're supposed to score 29. It looks like the highest on the entire slate. They're going to be everybody's focal point. I mean, Kamara, if he wasn't $9,000 on FanDuel, would probably be a real chalky guy. Maybe he is now, maybe he's not. It's going to depend on what people find in value elsewhere to actually pay up. What was Drew Brees? 8,900 or so? 8,800 over on FanDuel? So he's expensive as well. This is a week we have a lot of cash safe quarterbacks on the main slate, so I don't know that we're going to need to pay up for Brees. Is he a good option? Sure. We saw what we wanted to see, which was a ton of passing attempts, a lot of volume for Drew Brees, which brings Kamara into play, brings Mike Thomas back into play. I don't know about the other receivers. I mean, I might use some Ben Watson. Cleveland has historically been pretty bad against the tight end. I don't know how safe I'd feel about it, and that's a cash game staple. The 8 points suggests that New Orleans will be running the ball, but with who? They don't have it. Gillislee. I don't remember. You guys are gonna have to tell me in the comment section if he got hurt or not. He's not on my radar anyway, so I only pay attention to the guys that are on my radar. They'll play their way onto my radar. They'll play their way off of my radar. By the end of the year, we'll probably have a pretty good feel for everybody. But right now, I'm really only using the best of the best. That's all I need to worry about. Pricing's soft. It's early in the year. Looking over at the Cleveland side of things, Tyrod Taylor, cash safe, no. GPP, great option. Likes to run a lot. That helps his floor, helps you get a lot of points out of him or get something out of him. You could use some Josh Gordon and be fine. Jarvis Landry might be awesome. Might be your garbage time receiver in this game if they're down 8 late. Again, could they win? I guess. Do I see it? I don't know. I don't like the narrative of, well, New Orleans lost the first game. It was a stinker. They're going to be pissed off. Well, of course. They should be. They're competitive. But I don't know if that's going to do anything for them. They might suck. I don't think they do. I think they're very much in play. But over on the other side, if the game goes according to plan, I'd be looking at Jarvis Landry. I would save Josh Gordon for deep threat type stuff. And those are usually guys with no floor and high ceilings. I'd save him for GPPs. I'd save Tyrod for, you do Tyrod and Josh Gordon and then run it back with Kamara. Or Tyrod, Josh Gordon, and then maybe take a shot on Mike Thomas for the shootout or something like that. Fine. Viable stacks in tournaments. Cash? No. Breeze, Mike Thomas? Probably viable in cash. You want it to go both ways for you? Breeze, Kamara. That works. I know people will say the running back and the quarterback are not as highly correlated as the wide receiver one, and you're right. But when you see a game going high scoring with enough touchdowns to go around, and you see a pass catching back that's also the feature back, hint, Cam, McCaffrey, you can run them both together because you sort of do get the best of both worlds if the game goes for 40, 45 points. I wouldn't take that off your radar. LA Rams, Arizona, huge spread, 10.5 points. We're looking there for Gurley and the defense again because, look, under 18 again for Arizona. They looked awful. Didn't look like they could do anything. Sorry, David Johnson. You might be left alone on this one. Larry Fitzgerald might be a good one to run it back with. You know, I don't know if you'd necessarily do Goff and Gurley here. You might. You probably capture a high floor with it. You probably have a little bit of a ceiling fighting against itself, not like Breeze and Kamara, but you end up with maybe some Cooper Kupp. Brandon Cooks got targets. These are the types of people we'd be looking for. Maybe that ends up working out for you, but it's largely looking like it's going to be Gurley, late, and the defense. Those are the key plays there. San Francisco, Detroit, people are focused on the game. I see why. 48-point total, 3.5-point spread, pretty close. 26 points here, 22 points here, not terrible. But Detroit looked really, really bad. Really bad. When I see that kind of bad, and I don't think San Francisco looked that great either, when I see a couple of poor defenses matching up against each other, I mean, we can at least agree they're non-elite, right? Poor defenses matching up against each other. A lot of times shootouts happen. You want a GPP stack, game stack right there. Might work out for you. Galladay got a lot of targets. Golden Tate always gets a lot of targets. Matt Stafford, everyone's going to be afraid of him. He's not that bad. He had a bad game. I mean, he's not great. You know, he's not earning his paycheck, but he's still going to have some good games this year. He's still going to have a floor in a lot of games. He's not going to look as terrible as he looked in week one. He's not all of a sudden just roasty toast. What we need to look for is what can happen on the other side of the ball in San Francisco. Jimmy G, perhaps. You know, Detroit looked horrible. Who's he going to use, though? Garcon? I don't know. Didn't look very good. He'll use George Kittle, so I'd be focused there. I also like running Kittle as a one-off and getting out of that game, you know, for cash purposes. Because with Kittle, I've got the number one target in that offense, and on top of it, I've got exposure to Jimmy G if he does have a great game because Kittle's going to be a part of it. Another sneaky play, tournament type play. San Francisco defense usually plays pretty well at home. We saw Stafford just feed the opposite defense, you know, the Jets defense with tons of interceptions. So, hey, it's another sneaky one for you. Probably be pretty cheap. New England at Jacksonville. This game, it looks like more of a defensive struggle. New England game plans with the best of them. Jacksonville's defense is really, really tough. I don't like anything in this game. I will tell you, as the ultimate GPP play Gronk, though. At $7,900, he's $1,500 above anybody else at the tight end position. People are going to be wanting to spend down. RSJ in Arizona because of Jared Cook last week, tearing up the Rams tight end spot. You'll see a lot of that. That's viable. As a result of all that paying down, you'll see Gronk being left largely alone. Is he going to be low owned? No. Under owned? Maybe. For what he provides, what is he, 7,900? Somewhere around there, 7,900, and you end up with, you know, a wide receiver one when a lot of them are 8,800. So there is a bargain there if you can find Quincy Enunwa, Danny Amendola, you know, cheaper plays to get off of those huge number one receivers everybody else is going to be on and use Gronk instead. But Jacksonville might not be the spot to do it for cash. Therefore, it's the ultimate GPP play because Gronk is pretty matchup proof. Oakland at Denver. Denver has a massive home field advantage the first couple of weeks of the season. Teams are not in game shape necessarily all the way yet. They go into that altitude and they die. Oakland looked so bad that I can see Denver winning this game by more than 5 points. I don't know who they're going to run the clock out with late, but the Denver defense is in play. Only 20 points implied for Oakland. Case Keenum's in play. He's got 2 great targets. Was using Demaryius Thomas again. Good for him. Got open against Seattle. We know Seattle doesn't have lockdown corners anymore, but he got open against them. And Emmanuel Sanders is a cash lock. Keenum, Sanders, great for cash. I don't know what you're going to do in the running game. On the Oakland side of it, am I chasing Jared Cook? No. I know that Denver's not great against tight ends. I also know Denver wasn't great against running backs last year. Does that mean I'm on Marshawn Lynch? No. I have other options. Other options up in here I like better. Looking at Dallas and the Giants. 42.5 point total, pretty low. 3-point spread in favor of Dallas. Another division game. Could get flip-flopped. Do I see it shooting out? No. Dallas is inept on offense. I see some OBJ. Maybe some Saquon Barkley. I see those types of plays. Don't know if I'd trust Eli compared to the others that I've mentioned. Dak, Zeke, Cole Beasley. I mean, Beasley will probably be in play if you need some kind of a small workload type cash type guy on DraftKings or something. Cole Beasley's going to have a game or two this year where he scores a couple of touchdowns. I don't know when it's going to be. Need a GPP punt, be lower owned. Ezekiel Elliott, fine. I guess. Am I excited about him? No. What would I do if I was the New York Giants defense? I'd stack 9 in the box, maybe 10, maybe 11. Maybe I'd bring 12 guys onto the field and do it. I know what you're going to do. You're one-dimensional. You're flat. You've got no true number one receiver. Your number one receiver on the Cowboys is likely a 2 or a 3 on other teams. So that guy, you're just going to hand it to Zeke. It's the end of it. So I'm just going to stuff the box and I'm going to limit him. He's got slate breaking potential. We've seen it. But I don't know when it's going to happen because there's no balance to that offense to free him up. He could face a bad run defense, and I might get interested in him then, but not until. Chicago, Seattle at Chicago. Seattle, where we know Russ Wilson is going to miss 4 weeks with some sort of knee deal that's going on. I don't know where that puts anybody else. I don't care. I don't need that game on that Monday night anyway. I'm even going to probably play it on the showdown. Chicago, I'm keep waiting for Trey Burton to pop up. I don't mind some of the players in it, but I'm not going to be focused on it. Let's jump out of these games and let's go into the box checkers and let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's what I want you to write down. I'm sorry we're already 27 minutes in it, but I'm not going to make 2 videos. This is probably the better part of the week that we're going to do. So I'll try and get faster on the slate, and I'll probably just break down the games that we want to break down. If you had to click it and stop and come back, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm going to try and keep this thing under an hour the best I can. But we only get about 1 a week. Here's what I want you to write down for box checkers on quarterbacks. Okay, on the research station in DFS Army, you get last week's results, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defensive matchup, stack builder, salary analysis. The one thing you're going to want to watch, one of the things that's pointed out in an article that you'll see linked in the Wishbone is this cap differential. It's pointing out where they're cheaper, FanDuel or DraftKings, to help you, if you're playing both sites, pick the guy in the most valuable spot. If you're only on one site, you don't pay too much attention to this. The price either makes sense or it doesn't. For the quarterback, when we're looking for the best of the best of the best, we're looking for a home quarterback. Write it down. Home. Favored. Implied to score over 24. Even better when implied to score over 26. And we're looking for someone kind of in the top 10 when it comes to total quarterback rating or QBR, the efficiency rating. We're looking for efficiency at the quarterback position. That plays. Now I can throw you other little rules of thumb. We're on FanDuel. You don't want to pay over $9,000 for a quarterback. You'd like to stay somewhere between $7,000 and $8,500. You don't want to pay all the way down at quarterback on FanDuel either necessarily. Those guys haven't had historical, good games or whatever. But over on DraftKings, you do. You want to pay as far down as you possibly can to a viable quarterback. Cheapest viable quarterback. Because of all of the 100-yard bonuses, you need those big running backs. You need those tight ends that can get 100 yards. You need those big wide receivers. And your quarterback can get you 300 yards and get the bonus too. You pile in all those bonuses by hitting all those spots, and that cheap quarterback just made a ton of sense. You don't get any of those bonuses over on FanDuel, so it doesn't make as much sense over there. That's why you need to pay up a little bit more for quarterback on FanDuel. Big tip right there for you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look for the home teams. They're in yellow. We're going to look for the point spreads by taking the favored teams. I want less than 0. Now I've only got my favored teams, right? I'm going to look for the home teams that are favored. Now I'm going to take the implied total. There's the team total, and I'm going greater than 24. Call it 23.5 so I get the 24s on the nose. If you're not on this list, I'm sorry, you're just not on this list. Home teams, Drew Brees, Alex Smith, Ben Roethlisberger, Jimmy Garoppolo. Sorry, Rivers is away, so he doesn't get to check that box. Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Case Keenum, Jared Goff. These are the guys that are more or less in play. They're over 24. They're favored, and they're at home. Pretty simple. If I want to cut it down even better to the best of the best, I'm going to look at who's over 26. So I'll sort that descending. And I'll come over here to the 26s. And I'll say Case Keenum, Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben Roethlisberger. These are my playables. Which ones are more cash safe than the others? The Alex Smith, top 10 QBR last week. Drew Brees, top 10 QBR last week. Jared Goff, top 10 QBR last week. Case Keenum, number 14. Just missed. Those are the guys. Those are the ones I'm going to be deciding between. Now, being that Drew Brees is 8,800 and all the other guys are in the low 7s or high 6s, guess what I'm going to be doing? Position scarcity. It's a deeper position. We have quite a few options. When we have a lot of options, we can tend to pay down. When we don't have any options, we're going to have to pay up. Doesn't look like we need to pay up to Drew Brees this week. You can if you want. Doesn't look like we need to. So the ideal play might very well be saving a little bit of money at the position with a Case Keenum, a Jared Goff, maybe a Big Ben, and an Alex Smith for sure. I mean, my lead dog's Alex Smith. That'll wrap up quarterbacks. It's that easy. Yeah, run Deshaun Watson in GPPs. Run Ryan Fitzpatrick again in GPPs. Run these other guys that you saw. Take chances on people in GPPs. You need to be right. You need to hit the nuts. And we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick had the nuts score at quarterback last week, right? But for cash games, safer contests, we want to be dealing with the best of the best. The guys that historically hit value in these scenarios, these 4 or 5 scenarios. If they check all of the boxes, boom. The guys that check all the boxes are Alex Smith. Well, he's not over 26 points, unless this one rounded up. Where's Alex Smith? Alex Smith, Alex Smith, Alex Smith, 26. It was really 25.5 or 25.75. That may fluctuate throughout the week. So let's go ahead and call it 26. So Alex Smith checked a lot of boxes. Big Ben is not quarterback. He's not efficient, so maybe not. Drew Brees did check all the boxes. Jared Goff checked all the boxes. And Case Keenum is missing the 26 to the letter of the law. It rounds up. But he did not make the top 10 in QBR. But those are 3 or 4 really good choices. Running backs. Write these down. Running backs. Home. Favorite. 18 plus touches. What's a touch? A touch is a carry, and it's a reception. I fudge a little bit, and I call it targets because targets are easier to see. So I add carries and targets and call those my touches that I want to see over 18. Why not 20? I don't know. 18 was where they drew the line when I read the article. I think it was a Chris Raybon article, by the way, just to give a shout out to Chris Raybon. Red zone work, third down work. Why is that important? Well, red zone, duh, touchdowns, third down, duh, receptions. But what we're looking for is somebody who checks both those boxes is a 3-down back. 3-down backs tend to be game flow independent. They tend to get the same heavy workload regardless of game situation. Sometimes it's because there's no depth behind them. Sometimes it's a philosophy of the coach and the OC. But generally speaking, those are the guys you're looking for, because we can then count on a secure workload. If we see 16 touches or 22 touches, we can count on getting that, and that's enough to produce. 8 touches, not enough. If a guy needs to be behind in the game, and they're forecast by Vegas to be behind in the game, that's fine. But as we all saw in New Orleans last week, it doesn't always work out. And when it doesn't, your guy vanishes. We didn't see Alex Collins vanishing last week because we didn't see them blowing the Buffalo Bills out so hard they stuck him on the bench. I'd like to see what his snap count was. I didn't look that far. That would be another thing. If you're an Alex Collins fan, you might look into snap count to see, was he still on the field? Or if you're a Buffalo fan, you watch the game. Was he on the field most of the time and just wasn't getting the ball handed to him? Or was he on the bench because they were worried about hurting him? You know, that's an important piece of the puzzle to be predictive towards what he might see in those situations going forward. Now, Home, favorite 18 plus touches, red zone work, third down work. What we're going to do again, home, yellow teams, favored Vegas line, spread greater than 0. We want 18 touch. Damn, less than 0. My bad. My bad. It's probably going to disappear. No, there they came. Good. Now, we want to see, team totals are great, but we want to see the touches. So you'd have to scroll over here to the 2017 stats, and you'd have to be looking for rushing attempts and targets per game and add them together. Okay? Based on last week, there's a lot of DVP stuff. There's your red zone work, rushes inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5. Okay? You can go look those up yourself. That's why you got to become a VIP. Get the controls of this bad boy yourself. I'm going to tell you that Adrian Peterson checked a lot of boxes. Workload boxes and everything. Not 100% sure about red zone work. I would assume so. And he did get 3 targets, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities that he's going to get some passing work. That would be odd for his career, but looked like it might happen as of last week. Melvin Gordon, great. Not home, but favored, 18 plus, red zone work, a little bit of third down work. Eckler's the guy, but a little bit of third down work. Check 3 boxes. Dion Lewis, home, not favored. I think Houston's favored. Got 18 plus touches and gets third down work. Might be getting red zone work or goal line work. James Conner, again, checks all the boxes. He should be chalky. All right, one note I wrote about Dion Lewis. He's perfect for going high-low. You want to get a Kamara, put Kamara and Dion Lewis in there. You still average it out to what, 8,800 or 9,000 for Kamara, and Dion Lewis is sitting where? Price-wise. He's not even on the page, but 6,500. So 9,000, 6,500 is 15,500, so 7-ish, 7,500 per back. Well, that's just like running, Gordon and Gurley or something like that, right? Which is another viable option. But the high-low helps you get higher in price. You can run, Connor at 7,000 and then run Lewis and save money. That always works too, and then pay up at wide receiver. But generally speaking, you're going to want to pay up a little bit for running backs because those are generally where you find the true game flow independent running backs, the workload running backs. So James Conner checks all the boxes. Home, favored, 18 plus touches. I mean, for crying out loud, you got 36. Red zone work, third down work, great. Across the board, reliable, as long as they don't just bail on that plan. They may do more passing this week because Ben may be more efficient at home. But, 36 touches, he should get 18. Kamara, home, favored, got 17 touches last week, which is interesting. 16, 17, fine if his efficiency holds. I'm not going to cut a guy completely out because he only gets 16 touches in a game. I like that they used him in their red zone. They used him inside the 10 or whatever. I like that. Cash safe, I guess you could consider him that now, but you may have to also consider him overpriced at 9,000 compared to what else you have as options. Pay down for Case Keenum, throw Kamara in there. You ain't getting him with Drew Brees. It's going to be a very hard stack to do. Red zone work, third down work, checks all the boxes. Todd Gurley checks all the boxes. Home, favored, 18 plus touches, red zone work, third down work. So that's your list of running backs. Peterson, Gordon, Lewis, Connor, Kamara, Gurley. 6 backs to choose from. Have at it. Mix and match. Number 1 and 3, you're up. Number 4 and 6, you're up. Number 4 and 5, you're up. Number 5 and 2, you're up. Mix and match. But you're going to have to determine from that list who you feel is the safest. You may cut Gordon out because he's on the road and he's west going east. That's fine. I'm just telling you he's on the list. Don't be surprised if he has a good, solid game. I won't be surprised if he does because, Buffalo's going to win a couple games this year. I'm sorry, most teams don't go 0-16. I know they have, but most don't. Wide receiver. Write these down. 8 plus targets. We no longer worry about home and road, except for one category, but 8 plus targets. Red zone work. Road dog is a little bit of a bonus because the road dog is highly subjective to garbage time. And garbage time helps wide receivers more than quarterbacks. They get half a point to a point per reception. They get 1 point for every 10 yards. 15-yard catch, 1.5 points for the wide receiver. Those add up in garbage time. You march down the field, gain 40, 50, 60 yards, use your primary receiver, you might have 4 or 5 points off of that. Easy. However, your quarterback does not get a point for a completion, and he only gets 1 point for every 25 yards. So the quarterback has to throw, say, for 25 yards to get 1 point, where your receiver got 3.5 points potentially for that. See the difference? That's why garbage time's overrated for quarterbacks. That's why we don't want dogs at quarterback. I know people say, well, garbage time. No, you're not thinking about it all the way. Wide receiver ones, slot receivers, yes, definitely. Pass catching running backs, possibly. Quarterbacks, not so much. All right? So, road dog. Under 18 points is amazing. Why? Because it suggests they're going to get blown out. And if they're going to get blown out, garbage time. Right? We just covered that. Over 27 implied. So it's kind of a weird one. It brackets off the under 18s and the over 27s. We like those extremes because the really, really low ones suggest good garbage time. And the really, really high ones suggest, well, the game was a freaking shootout. Or they got their points somehow. Probably did some throwing to do it in a passing league like we are watching these days. So what I'm looking for with the wide receivers, and that list is always pretty big because you don't very seldom get someone that checks all 4 or 5 boxes. You get a lot that check 2 or 3. But what I did was I wrote down their touches, 8+, but I wrote down their actual targets. Okay, we're going to have to look up red zone work. We're going to have to look up, yes, we can figure out the road dog. We can figure out the under 18, the over 27. You can use the filters to do so. But you're going to have to scroll over here to the Vegas info, sort it out, scroll over here, find the red zone targets, scroll over here, use 2017 targets or use week 1. Another little tip about week 1 versus week 2. A lot of times week 2 goes completely opposite of week 1. Week 1 came out of the gate looking like this, 19 targets to Julio, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns to Kamara, and then week 2 is a different matchup, and all of a sudden we go, oh, we didn't use Dion Lewis, or we used Dion Lewis an awful lot in week 1. We kind of forgot about Derrick Henry, so let's use a lot of him, and let's feature him this week. Oh, that shit happens, man. In a true committee, that happens all the time. Bouncing around. So be prepared for the oppo stuff to happen in week 2. That's why we need 3, 4, 5 weeks for these numbers to sort of normalize. We need to face a couple of different styles of defense to see how the coaches are going to game plan and who they're truly going to use regardless of game flow. We need to get after some of the fluky games where Tampa Bay went nuts and beat New Orleans, and Detroit gave the ball away 1,000 times. We need to get past a few of those and see some things normalize. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Don't overreact. Understand that we're going to work with what we've got, but we're also going to kind of be expecting some freaky stuff to happen. Okay? Now, when I look at the wide receivers, I'm looking at Julio Jones. Didn't get a lot of red zone work. Got some. He's not the road dog. He's not scoring under 18. He's not scoring over 27. He got 19 freaking targets. 19. If half of that continues, he's fine. Cash save? Probably. I like to wait and see on him because they tend to forget about him in the red zone. But the dude can put up a 300-yard game on the ground by himself. We've seen it. Devontae Adams, $8,100, 8 targets. Again, I don't know about red zone work. I would assume so, but I didn't check that yet before I made this video. Not a road dog, not under 18, not over 27. So if I don't say those things, just assume that I know and they didn't check the boxes. The red zone work is the one we're going to have to look up, or you're going to have to look up on your own. Unless we know for a fact. Gronk, yeah, he gets red zone work. We know. Mike Thomas, yeah, he got red zone work. Antonio Brown, yes, we know he gets red zone work. Okay? Some of them are obvious. Adam Thielen, 12 targets, didn't check any other boxes, but they're still okay. They may not be checking a bunch of boxes, but they're still getting a lot of targets. These should kind of hash out over time. Randall Cobb, 10 targets. Will it continue? Don't know. Minnesota's good. Keenan Allen, 11 targets, red zone work, of course. Antonio Brown, 16 targets, red zone work, of course. They are scheduled to score over 27 points. Bonus. Great matchup, great spot for him. Tyreek Hill, 8 targets, red zone work. Road dog, good spot. Juju Schuster, 8 targets. Oh, don't know about red zone work, but over 27 points. Good spot. Quincy Enunwa, 10 targets for $5,000. Good spot. Nelson Aguilar, 10 targets. Focal point of his offense while Alshon's gone for sure. When Alshon comes back, I still don't see him getting tons, but he's going to steal some away from Aguilar. We're just going to want to use Aguilar until, Alshon comes back. Mike Thomas, 17 targets, red zone work, scheduled to score over 27 points. Big time receiver this week. Great spot. Jarvis Landry, 15 targets, red zone work. Road dog. Garbage time. Tiempo de garbage. You're going to want to put him on your short list. Larry Fitzgerald checks some interesting boxes. 10 targets, red zone work, of course. Road dog. Under 18. Very strong play. 4 boxes. He can't check the 5th box over 27. If he's under 18 implied, can't get over 27. So he can't check all the boxes. He checks every damn one he can check, though. Good spot. Bummed a lot of people out, too. So there is a lower ownership possibility here. And I know we don't worry about that in cash games, but it's nice when it happens. Brandon Cooks, 8 targets, over 27 implied points. Cooper Kupp, 9 targets, red zone work, also over 27. Great spot for him. Golden Tate, 15 targets, road dog. Michael Jones, MJJ, Michael Jones Jr., whatever. 8 targets, deep threat, road dog. Kenny Golladay, 12 targets. Look at that. Tate, MJJ, Golladay. 15, 8, 12 targets. That is 27, 35. 35 targets for those 3 guys. 10 each. All road dogs. That might be your sneaky shootout in San Francisco. Garoppolo, Kittle, and then one of those guys. Pick the right one. You might have yourself something. Hell, contrarian. Stafford on the bounce back. Golladay on the deep ball. Getting the garbage time or whatever. And then Kittle on the other side for a little bit of passing work. Or maybe, Beretta if you want to go nuts. Those are things to think about because there's a high likelihood chance that you'll be right. They're a little GPP because they're not like the super high total games of the week. But man, that one feels like one that could go. Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. 10 targets for Demaryius, 11 for Emmanuel Sanders. Both get red zone work. Man, I would consider Sanders a little bit more cash safe than Demaryius Thomas until he does it a couple more times because he's been forgotten for a couple of years. Those are your wide receivers. Let's do your tight ends. Sorry you didn't get to see all those, but when I'm reading the list, I've already written down ahead of time. There's not much point in showing you everything. Here's what you write down for tight ends. 8+ targets, red zone work, home, favorite. Back to the home and favored stuff. Over 24 implied points. Why home and favored for tight ends but not wide receivers? I don't really know. Probably has a lot to do with garbage time. You don't really use your tight end in garbage time. You get down late, you get down close to the end zone at home, you get a little tricky. You're generally favored. You're supposed to score a bunch of points. So if there's 2 or 3 touchdowns to go around, the tight end might get one. But if there's only 2 touchdowns to go around, he might not. It's all that large number stuff. And I'm sure that there's a theory behind it. I just know what I read. Okay? 8+ targets, red zone work, home, favored, over 24 implied points. So, home. Probably don't need to do this at this point. Favored. Over 24. So, whatever, over 23 point whatever gets me up there. Well, I got a 23.5 in there. Anywho. Now we're going to be looking for, look at all these guys. Look at all these guys. We don't watch the tight end twos, but you don't mind these ones. Jordan Reed in play. Kittle in play. Jimmy Graham, I guess he's in play, but I don't think he got the targets. Watson did not get the targets. Burton did not get the targets. Vance McDonald did not get the targets. Austin Hooper did not get the targets. Antonio Gates did not get the targets. Only got like 3. Okay? But here's the ones that did hit the list. There's quite a few of them. Jack Doyle, 10 plus targets, red zone work. He is not home favored or implied to score over 24, though. So he's not, and these guys are, like I said, they're not going to often check all of the boxes. You want to take those that are checking more boxes than the others. If he's favored, implied to score over 24 points, and he's on the road, but he gets red zone work and 8 targets, check him. He's only missing the home. Doesn't mean you can't use him. Jordan Reed only got 5 targets. That's a bit concerning, but I do count on Alex Smith to use his tight end like he did Travis Kelce. I count on him to check it down to short routes. If Reed's running short routes, that'd be nice to know. You might want to look at ADOT, something like that. But I anticipate, while Jordan Reed's healthy, so the tight end should be a pretty decent focal point of the Washington Redskins offense. Gets red zone work. We know that. All tight ends pretty much do. It's home, favored, implied to score over 24. Checks all the boxes. I would check DVP or DVOA for the tight end specifically. In Indy. I don't think they defend anybody well, but maybe they defend the tight end position well. Who knows? But Jordan Reed's checking all of the boxes other than the targets, which is a little concerning. Sort of concerning, not terrible. Jonnu Smith, backup for Delanie Walker. 3 targets, but Delaney got 6. Like I said before, that added to 9. It looks like it's a good situation. Home, I don't know if they're favored. Don't know if they're going to be implied to score over 24 points. If he checks all those boxes for 4,200 on FanDuel, he's awesome. Zach Ertz, 10 plus targets, red zone work. Not home, but he is favored. 23.5, so call it close to 24. RSJ, Ricky Seals-Jones in Arizona. Did not get the targets, does not check a lot of the boxes. Very low total, 17.75. But we saw Jared Cook demolish the Rams defense. So, 5,200. I'd be watching Jonnu Smith for $1,000 less at 4,200 in a much, much, much better scenario than chasing Jared Cook's production with RSJ. But as a GPP punt, great. You're going to see a lot of it in cash games, I think. Quite a bit of it. And I think it's a mistake based on these box checkers. George Kittle, 9 targets, red zone work, home, favored, implied to score over 24, checks every single box. Bing, 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 cash, safe. Gronk, ultimate GPP play. We already mentioned that. 8 targets, red zone work, favored, 23.5 points, not quite 24. Decent spot. We'd rather see him at home, but Gronk smash. We know that, right? Gronk smash. It's just expensive when we can be paying way down. Even Kittle's only 5,600. And Jared Cook, 12 targets. Will that continue? I don't know. Red zone work? Probably. It's not home, not favored, not implied to score over 24. He's even more GPP than Gronk. But you might strike lightning with him. Let's hit the defenses and let's get out of here. Thanks again if you're still with me. We do this once a week, and it is what it is. All right, we got all the home teams. We don't care about home teams in defense. Blowouts happen. We want the game in hand late so the other team has to throw. That's what we typically want. We want to see signs that will take the ball away, but that requires you looking at turnovers and whatever. It's not as strongly correlated with hitting value as these other metrics. What are the metrics? What do we need to be writing down? Grab your pen. Favored. Check another box if they're favored by more than 6. And then we look at opponent's implied team total. Check a box if it's under 22. Check another if it's under 20. Check another if it's under 18. 5 possible boxes. Favored by more than 6, under 18 implied total, all boxes checked. And really and truly, it's about all we need to look for. And I love it when these teams are on the road because they're never owned. Outside of the Chargers this week, who will be because they're facing Buffalo. But that said, Typically, the road ones are never home. You could look at the spread a little bit if it's over, over 6, like we said, because it tells us that the game should be out of hand late. I mean, you could look at takeaways, you could look at sacks, but I don't need to dig into all of the offensive line ratings and defensive line, all that crap. That's for nerds that are digging too deep. Sorry if you're one of those nerds. I'm a nerd in a lot of different areas myself, but I'm just saying that's a little bit overthought for this purpose. GPP, maybe it gives you some kind of an edge. I don't think it gives you much of an edge to dig that deep into stats. I don't care if the wind was blowing out and the pitcher sneezed in the 3rd inning and a squirrel took a dump on home plate and the batter was wearing pink gloves with a yellow arm wrap on his birthday when he turned 37. I don't care. You're each time you dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, you're really losing the edge that you might gain from unearthing some stat nobody looks at. If it was a super huge key stat, it'd probably been discovered by now anyway. So we just hit the crop and hit the top and go that way. So defenses favored by more than 6, implied team total, opposite implied team total, under 18. So we go to the Vegas lines. We need the opponent's team, not the actual team. So if I do this, I would have to, this is how I'll reverse this up in the Vegas lines. I will go less than 18. Actually, I've got to go to 22. Less than 22, because I'll find the others. So less than 22, and then I've got to find the spread greater than 0 to find the underdogs. Oopsie. Ah, dang it. Bring back my underdogs. So these are my underdogs, and these are my team totals. Now what I can do is I can do this by ascending or descending order. And there's the low totals. Okay? These are the low totals. These are the under 18s. These are the 20s. These are the 22s. Okay? So we just go checking boxes, and there's the spreads. And what I found, Washington Redskins. Did they come to the top? No. I just did this chronologically by the slate. Washington Redskins favored. -5.5 spreads, almost 6. So it's very borderline. And the opponent implied total is under 22. It's not under 20. It's under 22. So what I've got is 3 boxes checked, 2.5 boxes checked. Not a great defense, but in play. LA Chargers, all boxes checked. Favored by more than 6. Implied total under 18. Cash safe. Run them. New Orleans Saints, 3 boxes checked. Still favored by more than 6. Under 22 opponent team total. But nobody's going to be on them because of last week. They'd be a great GPP pivot. Could happen. Tyrod's pretty good at controlling the ball, though, so maybe not. But when you're talking about winning a 50,000 person GPP, you need to have the fluke. You need to have the Ryan Fitzpatrick. LA Rams, favored by more than 6, under 18 implied team total for the opposite team. Boom. Cash defense. Those are your chalk defenses, or they should be. Rams and Chargers. Denver, they're favored 5.5. So again, give them half a box that, or almost a full box. Under 22, under 20, 4 boxes out of 5, 3.5, 4 boxes out of 5. Pretty good chance that they hit some value. And then Atlanta, favored by 5. They're favored, not by more than 6, but the team is, Carolina's supposed to score under 20. So give them 3.5 boxes there. And the beauty of them is they're only $3,400. There's only 3 teams cheaper than them, so you can see why I picked Atlanta. Guys, we're up against an hour. Hopefully it doesn't run like this all year long. But in the meantime, thanks for sticking with me. Run down to the comments section. Hit dfsarmy.com. Come trigger the coaching to learn how to use these tools, to grab the controls of the tools yourself. Use the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, to get that 10% discount down there in that comment section. Hopefully I see you in the inside. Hopefully we get to talk a lot back and forth. Comment out here on YouTube. Share it, like it, subscribe, kick it around with your friends, tweet it, whatever you want to do. Sky's the limit. I appreciate it. The more word gets out, the more of this I do, the more of this I produce. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to attach this into Wishbone. You're going to see me again next week. If not, a little bit later in the week with something else that I cook up. Keep following the channel, and I will talk to you guys when I talk to you. I got to go get a drink of water. See you.